I'ma run it right back.
Go, here we go, touchdown! Max Tooley. Touchdown, Chase Roberts! Touchdown, Isaac.
What's Trending, presented by Feastbox, donating 10% of every order to Full of Hope, a charitable organization that feeds hungry families.
Love that.
The Athletic, and we have several friends there, have BYU, Jarom, with an expected 4.3 wins this season. Isn't it great? Isn't it fantastic? And we've noted this before, a 0.1% chance to win the Big 12. 14th.
0.1?
Yeah, that high.
Wow.
14th out of the 14 teams, and just a 20% chance to win 6 games, essentially 20% chance to go to a bowl game.
What?
Jarom, what do you make of these gulp low numbers for BYU football?
I don't disagree that it's a possibility that these numbers exist.
4.3.
Do I like these numbers? No, of course not. Okay, 4.3 expected wins. I don't have a problem with it. I think there's a universe where BYU wins 4 games this year. I also think there's a universe where BYU wins 8. Like, who knows? The conference title thing, yeah, BYU doesn't have a chance to win the conference title. It's okay. This isn't the year for that. But the 20% chance to go to a bowl game. No.
20%?
Here, let me tell you the 6 wins. You ready for the 6 wins?
Yeah.
I'm ready. Okay.
Let's go.
Obviously, Sam Houston and Southern Utah, no conference.
There are 2.
I think BYU comes out of the gate and surprises some people and wins at Kansas. That's going to be a tough game. But Kansas's defense is so bad. We expect, and maybe they're way better on defense. But we expect BYU's defense to be way better. Does that mean it's a top 40 in the country defense? Maybe not. But if it's top 50 or 60, like we've talked about, hey, that's good enough because we expect big things from the offense and Aaron Roderick because that's what they've done.
That game could be a shootout because they've got Jalen Daniels.
Yes, if you can slow down him in some way, shape, or form, you got a chance.
Okay.
Cincinnati, no way BYU lose that game. Okay. I'm gonna die on that hill. Okay.
Cougs are 4-0. No, or 4-1.
Or 4-1. They
okay,
jump out.
4-1.
But the last 7, I think, could be a struggle. Like there's a chance BYU goes 2-5 in the last 7. But I see wins. At West Virginia, okay. I think BYU goes across the country, and despite historically not doing well in those situations.
Especially in the afternoon.
They're not in the afternoon anymore, Guy. And Iowa State.
Okay.
I think that's a home win. Those are 6 wins. I see another one on there, too. I could see, if BYU gets really banged up, I could see where crap hits the fan, and yes, BYU doesn't make a bowl game. But the 20% is pretty low for me. Honestly, I put BYU in somewhere in the 60 to 70% chance to win 6. Win 6. Because you're getting 2 out of the gates, so you have to win 4 out of the next 10. I think that's going to happen.
If BYU only wins 4 games, things have gone terribly, terribly wrong. And it's probably injury related.
Yes.
Like it would take just some absolutely catastrophic type injuries to the season to put BYU, in my opinion, in the 4-win column.
That'd be bad.
Like, that's like losing your starting quarterback in game 2.
And running back, and left tackle, and middle linebacker, and safety. And
yes!
Like no one hopes for that ever. Yeah.
I look at the roster, and I see the schedule, and I'm like, okay, that's a tough schedule. But I look at the roster and the upgrades that have happened, and there are upgrades. I know that Jaron Hall's in the NFL. Like, okay, Keaton Slovis is a question mark for sure. But the offensive line, we feel like, maintained, okay? After losing
if it can
some
be
great
plus
players.
The A that was last year, I'm good.
Yeah, they maintained enough.
They're not going to be the same O-line. Last year was special.
We feel like BYU has upgraded at running back with Aiden Robbins. We
hope.
Right, over Chris Brooks. And we feel like the tight ends are healthier. Isaac Rex certainly says he feels like he's better.
Tight ends are deeper.
Wide receivers should be
We feel
solid.
like it's deeper.
Okay, deeper.
You don't have a Puka, but you're deeper.
But you're deeper at that
Meaning
position.
You have more good players at that position.
And defense was so bad last year that bringing in Jay Hill and changing the scheme and just a hard reset, we feel like is going to net BYU at least a 40-spot jump in the total defense national rankings. From 109 to
yards, total defense?
Yeah, yards, points. Like, I would take both, okay?
You're saying it automatically as a 40-spot jump.
They were so bad, Jarom, that I don't think it's that hard to jump 40 spots.
From like 100 to 60.
Yes. Like, I know when I said it, it's like, whoa, that's a huge jump. Not when you're around 100th or 110th.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Vanderbilt, 3 more wins than last year. Well, you were 2-10. So, is that hard to get 5?
I just feel like BYU's done enough, and there's enough of a significant change on defense and an upgrade there that BYU's going to win 6 games. 20%, I'm with you. I'm well over 50%.
Yeah.
I felt like I was being pretty cautious saying like 60 to 65% chance that BYU makes a bowl game. I'm leaning 7 wins. Like, people are going to have to visit LaVell Edwards Stadium in Provo, Utah, and they're going to find out
and at night,
how difficult that is to win, especially in night games.
BYU's like a 90% win at night after 6 p.m. team since 2019.
Do you think ESPN is like,
good.
November 18th, Oklahoma, we could
1:30
capture that.
PM.
We could capture that late window.
Late.
Yeah, let's push it into that late game scenario,
Yes.
and then I don't care if you don't want to buy into it, the statistic, it carries some weight.
You don't have to buy into it. It's a fact.
BYU plays really well at night at home. So the more night games, fans, you should be hoping for all the night games.
The Dark Knight came out 15 years ago today, Spence. Sam
fantastic.
Houston's at 8:15. That's a win. Southern Utah's at 1. Whatever, that's a win. Arkansas on the road is 6:30 local time. Can BYU muster a post-6 performance there? Then we know Cincinnati's 8:15. So that's automatically a win.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. It's not automatic.
We have some
I just
game
think
times.
the juice, is going to be so good.
Like
BYU's
Texas Tech
gonna
on
win.
October 21st homecoming feels like it's going to be a late kick.
If 5 out of 6 home games minus the FCS game every year were at night, Spence, I wouldn't mind. Like, would I mind another day game in there? Yes. But the way that BYU play, to me, BYU winning is more important than any other experience related to a football game. I want BYU to win more than I want a Cougar tail to taste good or the parking to be amenable or the ticket prices to be X. I just want BYU to win because winning makes us all happy around here. That's the point of the game. You play to win the game. So, 20%.
20%. How about you go 4?
Stinks.
Why would it surprise you if BYU went 5-1 at home?
No.
Would that surprise you?
No.
Or even 4-2. You go 4-2 at home, win 2 road games.
Yes. Okay, what road games is BYU winning? Arkansas, Kansas, TCU, Texas, West Virginia, Oklahoma State.
BYU, I
That's
think, has a
tough.
great chance against Kansas, against West Virginia.
Yes.
And
Oklahoma State.
I'm not buying Oklahoma State right now.
I'm not either. Like, last year was a struggle. They don't really know who the quarterback is. They lost a 4-year starter in Spencer Saunders. Like,
Oklahoma State is
they're-
not the Oklahoma State of the last decade.
neither is Oklahoma. Texas is good. Texas Tech is improved. TCU's improved. Cincinnati's not the team that 2 years ago played. That's a new era. There's some winnable games here. 20% stinks. Moving on.
65%. Let's go. BYU's going to win 6
I'll go,
games.
high 60s. Let's go. Topic 2. We mentioned it yesterday, but let's explore this more. Pick 6 previews ranks BYU 8th among all Power 5 programs. That just sounds nice, right? It's still not like fully settled in this BYU's P5. In player development, that is recruiting rankings from 2016 to 19, then NFL picks after that, 2020 through 23. Then 13th in win conversion. We love conversion around here. Recruiting rankings 2015 to 22. Total wins 18 to 22. So basically, how well do you recruit, and then how well do you put guys in the NFL and win? BYU's a top 15 team in the country and among Power 5s. As BYU's recruiting increases and gets better, that's what we expect in the Big 12. Will these ratios hold?
I don't see why it wouldn't. Like, what would BYU do as a staff and schematically and just their whole idea of what they are and who they want to be change all of a sudden?
You just have to produce more NFL. Like, if you get better in recruiting, you have to produce more NFL picks and more wins.
I wonder how the transfer portal affects this too. Like, I feel
Those
like
should be included in recruiting rankings.
I think so too, but do they? Are they right now?
Are they in this pick six?
I wonder.
If it's just high school, let's be honest. BYU's kind of in the 60s, 70s.
And I don't think it's going to change much.
BYU's not going to be in the high school game as much as they'll be in the portal. That's everybody, though, right?
Yeah.
Well, not everybody. Like, Texas and Oklahoma can bring in 5-stars who play or play soon, right? BYU brings in a 4-star out of high school. A lot of times they go on a mission. We don't see them actually play on the field for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I just expect BYU in the high school recruiting rankings to be, at best, moving forward, somewhere in the 40s.
I'd love to get to the 40s.
Right.
And that means a couple more
that's
4
at
stars.
best.
Yeah.
And then probably somewhere between 50 and 60. Like, as a Power 5 program now, I expect them to take a jump into between 50 and 60. They'll have a few years where they get an additional 4-star or 2, and they're in the 40s.
That changes the rankings a lot.
That will happen.
Yeah.
But I don't expect BYU, because of the type of player that Kalani Sitake wants to recruit and what is required of the athlete at BYU, I don't expect that to change. Just by nature, most of the men that come and play football at BYU are wired to give a little more and to maybe have been underlooked, and I'm going to prove everyone wrong. Like that is what the BYU athlete has been for a very long time.
Yes.
I don't expect that to change. Even with BYU being a Power 5 program, I expect that idea, that mentality to maintain at BYU. And while I'm not calling for BYU to put just an exorbitant amount of players into the NFL, maybe 3 draft picks or 2 draft picks on average a year over the last decade goes to 3, or that 3 goes to 4.
One more does it. I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be a ton.
One more does it. Like 5 in 2020 was special. And you sneak a few in the 7th round, great. Which, by the way, the transfer portal rankings, 24/7 Sports, has BYU at
top 20,
21.
Right? Oh, 21. Okay.
Which is awesome. Like, you talk about, hey, would you rather be top 25 in the transfer portal rankings or out of high school? Transfer portal, 100%. They're playing right away. Like, that's just how it is. Everyone's needing a Band-Aid. Everyone's getting quick surgery, and they're not getting long-term recover, take a long time. Like, if you will, you need players now. We've seen this in men's basketball. It's not as obvious in football, but football's gone that direction as well. You just have more scholarships, so it's harder to kind of see that ratio. But it does help that BYU men's basketball brings back the most returning production in the Big 12, we learned yesterday.
Interesting.
From John Rothstein.
Okay.
More on that perhaps this week. Yes, a little more, like one more dude in the NFL, or that consistency, which BYU is getting to. Again, the 18 and 19 crews are coming out into the NFL, and like they've had some real success at BYU. This has been awesome. But for BYU to hold these ratios, I think will be hard, because what BYU's done is been ranked low in the high school recruiting rankings, and then they've actually won and produced some NFL guys. BYU's really good at turning the no star, 1-star, 2-star, 3, 1-star even exists, 2-star, 3-star guys into NFL guys. We've talked about this. Jaron Hall goes from 3-star guy to NFL pick.
Dax Milne,
Wilson,
2-star.
Dax Milne is walk-on to NFL starter at punt returner and sometimes receiver. Awesome. Like Kairos Tonga was highly recruited and whatnot. In college, perhaps underperformed a little. Dude has stuck in the league as a late 7th round pick. This has been fantastic to see. And obviously, we'll hope for the best for Zach Wilson, but like you're back in the quarterback game. It's been good. BYU, we can quantify development, which is exciting. And BYU hopes to continue that because, yes, BYU is always going to operate a little differently in how it approaches everything. Obviously, the connection to the church is one thing, but sort of the mana of the team is, hey, we got to do this differently, and we've got a chip on our shoulder for a million different reasons. Will BYU get to a point where it's very successful and that has to adjust in some way? Because as a Power 5 team, now we have to prove ourselves as a Power 5. That's the new era we're in now. But later, should BYU, say, do what Utah's done and win 2 Power 5 titles, what does it sort of become? Can BYU handle its success once it gets to that point? Because we'd like to see it in the next couple years.
BYU will always be a mature team. And I'm not talking about age. Again, this is just the type of player that BYU recruits.
Yes.
By nature is just typically a more mature individual.
Football isn't everything to that person. And that's not to say it is everywhere, but at a lot of schools, football is the end game. It's like, well, here it's part of what we do.
That maturity helps this very thing of a player that is off the radar to jump onto the radar because of the experience and maturity that they have. That's not going anywhere. But can we translate it into just one more draft pick per year? That's how you maintain these numbers. And another win.
Yeah.
There you go. First win, Jarom, by the way, happens in how many days?
Countdown to the Bearcats.
46 days.
We got that one. How many times has BYU played in a season the same team with the same mascot, but it's spelled differently?
I don't know that has ever happened.
Bearcats with a K and a C.
Your obscure thought of the
Cougars with 2 G's and 1 G. What?
46 days away from the first game. Okay, not a practice.
Fall camp coming up. We'll tell you on later in the show.
This is the
when that
first
starts, but-
game. I love it. And it's a night game, Jerem. Good luck to Sam Houston.
On FS, good luck to Brother Houston.